Okay, so let's go into a little more detail about the MSc in Global Sustainability Engineering. Of course, if you want further details, then please do consult our course website, which has a lot of the information about the individual modules and a little bit more on the program. Just going back to basics, sustainable development, as we know, is about meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. We're operating, of course, within a space of limits. That's limits to resource, limits to impact, things like environmental impact or social impact, but it's also constrained by what's technically possible. So we want to encourage our students and our graduates to think across this space with a good foundation in technical know-how and technical competency, but appreciating that there's other aspects to sustainability, environmental impact, social impact, and we want a really broad skill set coming out of this program. So we see that graduates from the program will work within industry to make evaluations pulling on all areas of sustainability, and they'll use their skill set in roles that you might describe as sustainability consultants, or sometimes described as environmental consultants as well. But the idea is that they'll work within industry to affect change and to help clients and their own organizations proceed to more sustainable operations. And that type of work is embedded across all economic sectors. Things from putting roofs over our heads, fundamental things like providing us with energy, how we live together and how we move around, and what we make and the products and processes we create. This is a very transferable skill set to large sectors of the economy. The sort of day-to-day tasks that you might do as a graduate. Well, that's the obvious things like environmental impact assessments, looking at how our operations or development and our processes impact the environment and assessing how that happens. But it's also about, taking environmental data, taking technology data, and interpreting that for clients to provide advice and technical consultation, which might ultimately mean recommending technologies, processes, and systems that help move those clients and organizations to more sustainable operations. So, to do that, you need to know what the current state of the art of the technology is, and that will mean keeping up with the frontiers of research, and part of the MSc program is giving you that skill set to be able to do that. But then it's also about how you implement that change, right? So once you've got the technical recommendations and the technology to affect change, how do we implement it? So there's skills around project management and putting that change into effect. So the idea behind the MSc is really to provide you with a fundamental skill set and knowledge to be able to do a lot of these tasks. On the program, we're inspired by the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So if you want a career in, if you're inspired too by these and you want a career in addressing them, then the MSc really could be a good springboard into that career. Indirectly, we see our graduates tackling all of these goals, or many of these goals across this space, maybe indirectly. But directly, I think we're really focused on the program on these goals. So things like providing affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, industry and infrastructure, sustainable cities and communities, things like responsible consumption and production, and climate action, trying to prevent climate change. And of course, we're also focused on quality education, and that's what we hope to give you as part of this program. Okay, so just an overview of how we organise the program. If you start in January, you'll be coming into semester 2 of our normal academic calendar year. That'll be the first semester you undertake, and that runs from January to June. You then take the summer break, the summer recess, to return in September to do semester 1 of our normal academic calendar year. which runs from September to December. And then you would start semester 2 in January, so that's 12 months after you started, to do the dissertation, which would run until June. So in total it's an 18-month program from start to finish. Just an overview of the modules. Like I said, more details of these modules can be found on the course website, and I'm going to go through some of them in detail in some subsequent slides. But I just wanted to give you a very brief overview of some of the content here. So, just a guide to the color coding here. Sustainable. So the yellow modules are compulsory modules, core to the program that you have to do as part of the MSc, and the blue boxes, the blue modules, are optional. And you can choose from the menu there. So in total, the MSc is 180 credits, divided into 60 credits each semester. So the dissertation is worth 60 credits, and each one of these modules, sort of smaller modules, are worth 15 credits. So the core modules here are sustainable processing, and this is in semester 2. So the first semester you do, we have core modules in sustainable processing, which is all about making processes more sustainable and linking that first and foremost to the fundamentals of about what is sustainability within the context of processing engineering. We then look at, that sort of fits really nicely with the environmental impact assessment, so trying to look at processes and how we formally assess their environmental impact. So those are our two core modules in semester 2, your first semester in this instance. And then we have 4 optional modules to choose from. So, if you can do the maths, that's 2 modules out of 4 that you'll need to choose. And those include carbon solutions, and I'll get onto that in a second. Technology features and business strategies, so looking at how technologies will be shaped in the future. Green and sustainable logistics, so looking at how we move things around in a sustainable way. And then we're interested in the demand side of energy, so looking at demand management and energy storage, which are fundamental to sustainable development. So that's our semester 2. Semester 1 is essentially the fundamentals of some of these, some of the MSc core skills. So looking at process engineering. So these are the core modules: process engineering A, which is fundamentals in process engineering for MSc students. Foundations in energy, again, sort of fundamentals around energy for MSc students. And then the fundamentals around climate change and sustainability. So those are our core modules. And then you get the choice of 2 optional modules around process intensification. So that's the idea that if we can intensify processes, we can maybe make them less impactful on the environment and society. And then in addition to that, we've got a module on renewable energy technologies. How do we generate energy in a sustainable way? And you can see that we've linked the carbon solutions module to the renewable energy technologies module. And the idea here is that if you want a career in carbon management, so how we deal with CO2 in a way that then prevents climate change, then we recommend you taking those 2 modules together. And then finally, we've got an MSc dissertation module, which is giving you a chance to do your own research and your own project in a topic in any parts of the MSc. So, really trying to get to grips with in a very deep way with a specific issue across the MSc program. And just an overview in terms of assessment. Well, most of these modules are between 30 and 50% coursework, and then subsequently 50 and 70% exam. The exception to that is process engineering A and climate change and sustainability, which you can't really see because of my video here, but that's 100% exam for those 2 modules. I should also say that the coursework is a mixture of your own self-study, so things like the dissertation and some of the other coursework pieces have got essentially to be done separately, individually, and then there's also group work that we do encourage within the program as well. Okay, so just an overview of some of the modules here. Sustainable processing is around promoting understanding around sustainable processing, so in addition to what I said, but then it's also trying to give you the tools about how you make that assessment, so thinking about life cycle assessment, how do we formally try to understand how a process will impact the environment through life cycle assessment analysis. It's supposed to be very practically focused, so it tends to give the students a very practical understanding about how we can implement change within a process to be more sustainable, but also then link that to the fundamentals about what we really mean by sustainable development. What are we trying to really do here? Is it are we really being sustainable, or are we just trying to what they call greenwash? And we're trying to give students an appreciation by sort of being able to spot the distinction there by really genuine sustainable development and things like greenwashing. So that's really what really drives this model. We've also got, like I said, the environmental impact assessment module, which is a formalized way about how we assess the environmental impact of a process or a development or a technology. So that's fundamentally linked to legislation and the regulations around how we do that. So it's really trying to give students an appreciation and the skills to do this in a practical sense. So how to do this in the real world. And then finally, the module in carbon solutions. So this is linked to Heriot-Watt's world-leading research centre in carbon solutions. It's a research centre that I'm involved in that focuses on a whole range of different ways of managing CO2 to prevent climate change. And that might include things from carbon capture and storage to low carbon systems and looking at ways of reducing CO2 emissions from systems, to using CO2 for new products, like creating new fuels or creating new materials, to a new area of research that we're doing, which is called negative emission technologies, which is about removing CO2 from the atmosphere. It's an emerging area of quite exciting research. So it's really trying to give students really the state-of-the-art understanding of what's going on with CO2 management. And not only descriptive of what the state of the art is, but how we also assess the feasibility of those processes, and that you then be able to take into industry and hopefully sort of implement. Okay, so for the sustainability dissertation, that's a substantial piece of self-directed work. It'll be a project that you do under the supervision of a member of faculty, but it will be your own project and your own piece of research. So it can be a really great experience to put some of that learning into that you've done in the TOD program into your own piece of work. Just to give you a flavour for what might be possible, I've included some titles from past MSc thesis or dissertation projects. So things like integrating sustainability perspectives into corporate decision making, a sort of more company-focused, organization-focused piece of work. Certainly useful if you're thinking about going into sort of corporate decision making and into corporate environments. But then there's also things like new materials, like value-added products from algae. Also looking at ways of producing energy, new ways of producing energy, like microbial fuel cells, and also things like new materials like hydrotalcite, which is an absorption material that they might use for capturing CO2 from, let's say, the cement industry. So you can see that there's a whole range of different flavors of projects. In terms of experiences, that could be ranging from desk-based work, things like mathematical modelling, all the way through to laboratory-based projects. So there is quite a range and depth of experience that you might do with a dissertation, and it's certainly great for leveling up the skills that you might then take into practice. Okay, so that was a very brief overview. I'm sure you've got questions, and I'm of course happy to take those. Of course, there's more details on our course website as well. So thanks a lot.